Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 370. This is your guide to the geek side. And I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra from Savage, Minnesota, joined by Charlie from East Grand Rapids with no weather report.
No, but I'll tell you what, I bet our guest, who lives like blocks away from me, could totally step in and do the same thing. But you know what? I'm not going to speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself.
And we are joined by Steve from Parts Unknown.
Steve Steketee from East Grand Rapids, Michigan, just like Charlie, actually, an old-time acquaintance of Charlie from 30-some years ago now.
Damn right.
So, yeah, how you guys doing today? Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, it's good to have you on. We're bringing in a ringer, an expert, and an opinionated filmsmith to talk about something that is classified as a film that we're going to talk about later. Woo! Oh, my God.
Yes. Thank you for coming on, Steve. This will be fun. But before we get into the mix, we always ask our guests to give their geek origin, how they became the nerd they are today. So please tell us more.
All right. Well, I am a child of the 80s, much like yourselves, I'm sure. I was an avid movie lover growing up, and avid to the point where I would mow lawns so I could get Roger Rabbit tapes. I go buy movies at D&W every week. And I still love it. As you can see behind me, I've still gotten, Fletch Adventures and Babysitting, things like that. I eventually grew up, though, and when I went to college, I went to theater school in Chicago because I thought I wanted to be in theater. I still love the movies. Spent 4 years in theater school. I realized that is not what I wanted to do. Much more enjoyed being behind the camera. And so when I graduated, I had spent my entire career with friends in my dorms and apartments making movies and learning how to edit with early Photoshop, things like that. Graduated and basically got a job after a couple shorter ones in a post-production house in the mid-90s, and where I was a 2D, 3D animator for 7 or 8 years. Funny thing about that was about 6 months after getting that job, they fired our I was a grunt. Let me start that over there. A graphics grunt doing web graphics. Couple of months after I got there, though, they fired our animator downstairs, and the president of the company somehow asked me if I wanted to take that position, and I basically lied to his face because I'd heard the Steven Spielberg myth about lying your way into an office, and I said, absolutely, I'll take that. And then I found myself at 21 years old off Michigan Avenue in a room full of both Macs and PCs, and I don't remember the other names of the servers, the 3D servers now, as an animator. And I was doing television commercials and freaking out. It was trial by fire. I was, late nights at home reading how to do things on After Effects. And then that turned into an editorial position after a couple of years. And then I just up and decided with my ex-wife at the time to move back to Grand Rapids because I wanted to be a bigger fish in a little pond. Spent some time at some marketing facilities and post-production houses for a few years. And then about 10 or 11 years ago, some of my friends looked at me and said, you're too good to work at those places. Why don't you start your own thing? So I started up a small company called Shutterworks Media 11 years ago now this year. It's a boutique video production house. We service clients like Gordon Food Service and Metro Hospital, all the hospital systems, Chamber of Commerce, doing commercials or animation pieces, sizzle reels, promotional, all that kind of stuff. It's been fantastic. It's me and about 10 subcontractors I work with. Still, as you can probably see back here, still have the movie geek, movie love here. I've got probably 3,000 movies on my back wall, and I'm burrowing about 400 or 500 into my 4Ks right now. This entire basement is autographs and movie props from Ghostbusters, Empire Strikes Back, scripts signed, all this kind of stuff that I've been collecting for years. So really big movie fan.
Damn. Boy,
Steve, I was going to say, Steve, I believe you're the creator of Star Wipe.
Could have been. Homer Simpson's favorite. That's funny, Steve, because I've seen you 4 or 5 times in the almost 30 years since we got out of high school, and I knew bits and pieces, but holy cow, that is quite a resume. That's very impressive.
Thank you. I've had a good fortune to work on a couple films, independent films, a couple bigger things. Nothing too exciting, but with a lot of brands over the years, especially working in Chicago for a while. So
good deal.
That is kind of giving me what I hope is more of an introspective eye on movies. A lot more on the technical side, though, over the scripting side and but love them all the same.
Well, Steve, I don't think you knew this, but when you become a guest on the show, you volunteer to provide effects work and animation for the podcast. So
everybody does it.
When you got it ready for us, let us know.
That would be absolutely something that I'd be interested in talking to you about. There's a lot of great plugins. It's like $30, and then you plug it in and pass it off as your own, and boom. That's what happens. That's what happens a lot. I try not to do that, but
I joked my way through Premiere Pro begrudgingly. When my son says you can do more, Dad, I'm like, this is what I can do. So I'm definitely open to hints and tips.
Well, it's really funny. I actually still use to this day, because of the time in Chicago when I was more of an animator than an editor. I use a program that came out 25 years ago called Vegas Video. It was by Sony.
Oh, yeah, Sony, yeah.
Because I could simply go animate the pieces I needed to, and then I could pull them into Vegas, and all I had to do was cut, and then render out. It was really simple to learn. I got so stuck on that, I still use that 20 years later. And honestly, I have Premiere and I can use all that, but I am 10 times faster on Vegas. I mean, a cut's a cut. It's the talent of the editor that actually makes something work. And then if I have to, I can load it up into Premiere and then have, the client look at me edit in Premiere for a few minutes, and then I switch back to Vegas. But we live in a world now where I don't have somebody over my shoulder like I used to in the 90s, eyeballing and asking if that pixel's going to go there or where you're going to change that, and can you cut this? And so... totally different.
Our first editing tool was Windows Movie Maker. So there you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I can jump in here, looking, just moving the ball forward, looking at our cover for this week. Now, Steve or Todd, you had this is from December 1968, Action Comics number 370. This is a little Vegas bit right here because it's 3 panels. You got Superman at the top saying, "A funny thing happened on my trip to Krypton to Earth.
It's a stand-up routine.
I lost 1,000 years. It's a terrible punchline. I mean, I'm not involved. I'm not a theater guy like you, Steve. But what do you think of Superman's delivery? I mean, are you buying it?
Sounds a little corny to me, man. I know it's an old comic book, but that's part of its charm. So I think it'll play fine.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what. Somebody who would probably really appreciate this, anything old and crusty, would obviously be our senior news correspondent, who we're going to go check in with down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. That would be Madam Webb with her rumors and news. Let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Well, in the news this week, Madam Webb, thank you for bringing us 3 amazing stories, which none of them will be controversial at all. So we appreciate that, Madam Webb. We always know that you look for stories that are controversial because you have the views of a woman from 1892. And sometimes you feel like women have progressed too far. So we're fine with having no anti-women stories this week, Madam Webb. So thank you for that.
That is true. I will. I am going to have to disagree with you simply because I posted this story either earlier today or yesterday. Yesterday being April Fool's Day, we're recording on April 2nd. That they're talking about Bill Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgård dynasty of actors, is being eyeballed to reboot The Crow, and some people, at least people on our Facebook group, were not so super crazy about it. So, guys, where do you stand with The Crow? I certainly remember when it came out. That was tail end of high school for us, Steve.
Yeah, I remember being on a plane back from the Bahamas when I read on the plane that he had died during the production of it. Absolutely one of my old favorites, one of my old roommates in college's favorites. I had a 32-inch television in college and laser discs. Remember laser discs?
Oh, man.
Whoa. Talk about rich boy. 32-inch TV laser disc? This is like $3,000. Like
all I spent my money. All I spent my money on, and this was in college, so this is probably 95, 96. All I spent my money on. My parents thought I was losing too much weight. I didn't eat. I ate ramen, and I would go to Tower Records in Chicago and buy discs like once a week. It was like my thing. I still do that to this day.
Laser disc, damn!
I still have all my laser discs, Charlie, and I still have the Crow one. But back to the movie itself.
They're easy to store because they're like records. Very thin.
Right.
Yep. And they probably don't work anymore because they oxidize after 10 years or so like that. So I probably got a bunch of dead plastic back there. But
that was going to be my question, because a group that I belong to that's attributed to Star Trek the Motion Picture, there's about to be a big release this week about the laser disc. Somebody pulled out and said, "I've got laser rot." And I was like, "What is laser rot?" I had to have this guy explain it to me.
Yeah, old media. It's old digital media dies. Yeah. Well, that was analog, I think.
Yeah, speckles appear on it. And so I have behind me, I don't know if it's visible there in the corner there, but that is the original 1991 box set for Star Wars, the original trilogy on full Laserdisc, letterbox, no effects. I still have my Laserdisc player. I have not popped them in to see if they've been oxidizing.
Still the best.
I keep it closed. I don't want it to.
Right.
It's still the best source material. It's still the best source material for the unedited cut. If you can get yourself somewhere along the interwebs for there. But this is fairly interesting because this movie came out my freshman year of college, like in the summer, I believe. And I remember being a big fan of the comic James O'Barr, this independent comic, quite honestly, actually got made into a film, which was just crazy at the time, about a man who essentially was killed and brought back to life to avenge the people that killed him. And he's there to defend his city, which actually, fun fact, Charlie, you love this. It's all about the fact that this actually happened in Detroit.
I
remember
all
through that.
In particular, Detroit back in those days, burning it down was a radical. Detroit, my hometown, was a radical improvement. Smile for Instagram. Okay, moving on.
Nice segue.
Yeah, don't you love it? No, that's wild. I like Skarsgård's work. We love the. Somebody's playing music. I'm afraid it's me. Okay, it's gone now. My thing started playing music. But yeah, I liked his work. April's a big Stephen King fan. The It films that came out recently, we really enjoyed them. So I'm thumbs up for him. So I don't know why anybody would be so down on this, but
I very rarely find, you hear this all the time when somebody gets cast in a movie, everybody complains that they're not going to be able to do it. And I can't really think too often of a real big complaint where the person doesn't come on and actually do a pretty darn good job of it. Like him being It, everybody complained, and it was freaking fantastic. So I think he has the capacity to act that way. I'm just not quite sure of his overall tone. He can strike me as being evil. I don't know if he strikes me as being a hard-ass rocker
heroic
kind of thing.
Or heroic, yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of it has to do with the legacy, like we said, with the fact that Brandon Lee was, killed on set. Then to make that film actually happen, they had to do some things with a double and some early, I think, digital effects, I believe. So, but I think one of the cool parts about this movie was kind of the perfect synergy. A director like Alex Proyas, who is known to have made some good early films like Dark City, things like that. His most recent films have been less than good. So maybe that snapshot in time plus the soundtrack was phenomenal. And it was just like a snapshot in time that was just so perfect that sometimes they try to make sequels to The Crow and other movies like that. And I'm just like, people are like, maybe this body doesn't have much more life in it, but you know what? It could be good. We don't know who, though, is going to actually make this film. An actor is not a film alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just like the new Batman movie, and I don't know if you guys saw this one, but this is one of the recent movies that I actually thought was a film. And like, wow, when they let directors do what they want to do, and cast and do the way and stay out as much as humanly possible, you usually get something pretty good. And we haven't really seen those days since the 70s and mid 80s. And then a little resurgence in the 90s with Quentin Tarantino's and Alex Proyas and stuff like that, where everything comes together, the Wachowskis, where it all comes together, where just bam, you get lightning in a bottle. And boy, that was in summer again as an animator. The Matrix year and the Crow year, I can't tell you how many people were every time coming to my office. Can you do the Matrix Rain? Can we use the soundtrack for The Crow in the back of this? And this was still early enough on where you could kind of fudge that into things and you didn't get in trouble, or you could cheat music into things because of pre-Napster and all that. But everybody, we're doing a medical commercial. We want to use Matrix Rain. Well, what the hell does that have to do with it? Anything. I don't know. It just looks cool.
It's trendy and it's hip and the kids will like it and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I did look up who's actually going to actually make this film. Rupert Sanders, who all he has essentially done is made one episode of Foundation, and that's about it, which doesn't give you a good reference. Yeah. And that's on one episode of a TV show. But this is the weird part. The writer of this is from Zach Balan, who just won an Oscar for King Richard. So it's like that mixed bag of
writing versus directing,
something cool and new, because sometimes you get a director who's really fantastic, but based on their history, you got an Oscar winner and somebody who made one episode of a TV show. I don't know if it'll work, but it could be great, it could be bad.
That dichotomy seems really far apart for it to work out well.
I've heard great things about Foundation. But
Academy Award winner and some guy.
See, we watched Road to Perdition last night, and I hadn't watched it in 15 years. Watched it with my girlfriend, and I keep showing her movies that she hasn't seen, and I kept leaning over, going, "My God, I can't believe I haven't watched this in so long." Look at that touch. Look at what Sam Mendes did here when he moved past his tree. Look how that car does this here. There is so much involved in that the director does. The cherry on top, if you will, or the top and the cherry, it comes from directing on top of that foundation. That I fear, when they put a director who doesn't really have the chops or comes from a background that is not quite there. Because Stevie's a completely different animal. And most early directors came from music videos, but you could also tell, like the David Finchers, where they can't, what music videos they did and how they translated it out. And
I have a quick Star Trek related input to this. Star Trek Generations came out right after TNG ended, was directed by David Carson, who is a director from the series, not a film director. Though, Stephen, maybe you could correct him. Maybe he has some great backlog of films that I'm not thinking of.
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, that it just, there was so much, and maybe it was because the script was less than dynamic. But even some of the cuts, even I, as an absolute novice, I'm like, that was a terrible voiceover cut. That was terrible star wipe. That one's for you, Todd.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of stuff.
Editor, producer. I mean, so many people make something happen, but the director has the eye, and the editor obviously makes sure it flows correctly. Because some people have been. I mean, even today in modern television, you've got things that have to be made for, and this is for Paramount Plus, and a lot of things, we have to make things for commercials and people that don't have commercials. And think about that. I mean, your story has to be like cuttable, and it's like, ugh.
10-minute little chunks, 10-minute little rising arcs and lands and chunks and stuff like that. Well, as an editor, I deal a lot of local filmmakers from time to time, and it just amazes me. You get such individual talents out there, and any one of those, I call them the five pieces you need, like you said, Todd: the director, the writing, the production design, the makeup, and the editor. You have to have all five of those firing on all cylinders for a movie to be a movie, to feel like a movie, to me. And so many local films are always missing like two of those pieces in my estimation. So every time I'm watching like something local or something like budget, and I'm not even talking about indie necessarily, it's so easy for me to get yanked out of it, because you can say, well, that's a cool script, but the lighting is horrible. It looks like it's a soap opera. Or that's a fantastic director, but that editor is terrible. He's spaz cutting the fight scene, so I can't tell what's going on. So yeah, it's a real tricky line. I love it though as an editor.
Excellent.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I had to move my desk like 3/4 of a view because I have sun coming in. So if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have seen me. I'd be like a shadow. So see, I'm a perfect director, editor. I bring the whole picture together.
I won't bust the illusion for you, but I'm sitting in my basement on boxes that my computer is on a high top. I put a light down on the floor for the blue, and I'm just slightly off center, so you can kind of get the. So I'm even for this.
And it looks. And what
I've got this, and I'm at my dining room table in one of these really archaic chairs. But anyway,
those aren't even real shelves behind you. You're just sitting, but there's garbage cans and a dumpster behind you.
This is all CGI. There's a coat rack behind me. That's what all this is. But anyway, moving on. Todd, why don't you tell me when there's a slap heard around the world? What do you think happens afterwards?
Wow. Yeah, it's funny because I believe, Charlie, when we were recording, the Oscars were at the time. So we kind of missed some things, and I went up the stairs to watch it. And obviously, this has been the talk of the town, considering what stuff's going on in the world with Ukraine and everything else. It's like, well, you know what? We're getting back to reality, apparently, and we got stupid things happening in Hollywood that we're going to just be absorbed by, and everybody has a take on it. So we have not had a take on this, but we know what's happened with Will Smith, and apparently he has now resigned from the Academy. He still got his Oscar. He still got to sit through the event. He still got a standing ovation. Chris Rock doesn't want to talk about it yet. And at this point, you know what? It is what it is.
Right.
He's, and I would say at this point, these people are at such a level that you can't even compare it to anything else in the world, because Will Smith is like a deity in a sense. Chris Rock is also held very high, that you can't compare it to like real life anymore. So I don't even know if it's like worth even like delving in. But with society, thankfully, there will always be, hopefully, repercussions to your actions. It's not a cheerocracy. You don't get to come in and demand to be the cheerleading head if you do something horrible. This is the way it works. So apparently, based on Will Smith's actions, Netflix is taking action to not move forward or pushing his film Fast and Loose away from being made. It's on the back burner. So that means may never happen again. Will Smith has had a really weird career anyways, where he's like, he makes an Oscar-worthy film, but then he makes trash. He makes like that light thing on Netflix. So he's kind of similar to like Nick Cage, like Signs of Brilliance, but then he does the easy, lazy stuff for money. He has got a lot of weird drama around him with his wife and his kids, and it's just like, maybe for Will Smith, it might be not a bad idea to step away and just take some character actor roles. I don't know. Let somebody else shine for a while. But that's just my take. I don't know much more about this. I'm going to move this over to Steven.
Sure. Well,
Steve. I'm going to call you any different name. Steven, Steve.
That's my full
Steve-O.
name is Stevens, but Steve is fine.
Yes. Okay.
Without getting too political, that was unprecedented, and it was interesting for me to hear people like suggest that might have been fake or not, and just to land on that thing, I was like, are you really suggesting that on a Oscars that the last 6 years have been taking slack for not having enough black representation is going to make a joke out of black on black violence on national television, and then Chris Rock is going to take that
showrunner?
That's completely run by a black showrunner. I don't think that's what's going on there.
Hosts and all this stuff. Yeah. I will say though, so Chris Rock takes a slap like no man. I'm like, I couldn't take that slap.
Well, I don't want to go too far more, down this road because this is not a political thing, but there was a lot of stuff going on to that night, and just knowing Will Smith's past a couple of years, even regardless of the movies, but with his kids and what they're doing with his wife, I think this guy's mentally been broken. He's been broken over a wheel the last couple of years with a lot of the messaging that's been going on, and I think he kind of just lost it, and not the best way. But him going up there and basically, when you slap a man slaps a man, that's basically telling him, you don't even scare me enough for me to ball up my fist. It's kind of a very dismissive thing to do, very slightly effeminate kind of thing to do. And I just, all that mixed up. I feel bad for him that he's got something going on. But to move forward and then not to eat up too much time on Charlie's take on it, I'm a huge anti-cancel culture guy. I think it has gone off the rails. And,
True.
For people have been getting canceled for saying, obviously 20 years ago, and it's amazing who gets on and off with it. James Gunn almost got lost, came back, cool, and we lost a whole bunch of
Matrix bullet. Woo!
Yeah, right.
That's it. Yeah,
we lost a lot of other people, by the way, for less discretions. I don't know on this one. That I don't have a problem with this thing being canceled right now. I mean, that was a pretty in-your-face, no pun intended, thing to do.
That's the bit of it. Like I said, slap heard around the world. That was for a global audience. There wasn't like, well, it was okay because this reason or that reason. It seemed fake because this thing or that thing or this angle took it or the media twisted or whatever. That was live television, near as I could tell, and it was obviously very unfiltered.
Oh yeah.
What else is there to say about it? It's just
it was delayed in the U.S. It was delayed in the U.S., but overseas they didn't have the audio cut out like we did, where we didn't get to hear Will Smith continue to talk at Chris Rock, which is just crazy. But Charlie, we have not seen like this behavior in public. I don't even know. It's just unprecedented where we have this type of like physical altercation where it was really one-sided and it's assault, and that's true. If this happened anywhere else, person would have been tackled, taken away. We had Monica Seles stabbed by a fan coming out of the audience, stabbed. And we can't have someone just come up and attack someone because it's Will Smith. Because that's just a weird thing.
Well, let me ask you this, not to get too pointed on there. What if, and I heard this on the news a couple days later on a bit on YouTube. What if like Mel Gibson had done that to Chris Rock? This country would be in a way different place right now.
On fire. And especially with his history, obviously, not just because
that's why I thought of him.
Yeah, not a white man and a black man, but it's somebody who is let's not even get into that.
But then, in a country where we have slogans in the last couple of years of silence is violence and, speaking up can be, and words are violence as well. This is actual violence. It should actually have repercussions.
Hitting somebody is violence. I shit. I learned that in kindergarten.
And I know this is going a step too far, but we had other hosts. So what if one of those hosts, who were all women, 2 women of color, had said the same joke? It's not okay to say, I'm not going to hit you because you're a woman, I'll hit you because of men. Hitting anybody, regardless of their gender or whatever, is just wrong. I think we can all agree to that. So it's almost becomes like we can't make a second decision to say it's okay or you should hold back because of a gender. You've got to hold back because of, that's assault. And you've got to be ready for the consequences that come with that.
Right.
He didn't go to jail. He didn't get charged.
He got off real lucky so far.
Yeah, like I said,
is resign his post at Oscar, which means he can still get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I guess I don't really understand what nominating or resigning from the Academy.
He doesn't get a gift bag, apparently.
Oh my God! Well, unbelievable. And obviously, what we're talking about here is having a project delayed, but it's not like he's hurting for funds because the guy's a bazillionaire. But this is, I guess time will tell what this really means for his career. But it's obviously it's not good that there's not like, well, there's allegations that he hit Chris Rock. No, everybody saw it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think
he'll take a speed bump, I think, but Alec Baldwin is fighting like hell to keep his career, even though it's getting ridiculous. But who else? Who came back? James Gunn came back. People come back from some of these things.
Robert Downey Jr. came back from.
Robert Downey Jr. came back.
On a drug super, sleeping in someone's bed, home invasion.
Right.
Possible, and Will Smith's big enough to do it.
Exactly.
True,
God. Yeah, it's just crazy. And we all want people to succeed and do well. And he already apologized, so we get that. But there's a path to redemption, and we'll see how it goes. But he definitely will not be impacted financially because of anything he's done, because he's well off more than 99% of the public. So
no doubt
I'm not worried for him. I hope, though, that he can do the right thing in the future, and someone that can do some positive things, because after that's this last piece. Sorry, his speech after he was done came off as so hollow.
Right.
That
crocodile tears. Crocodile tears.
That's weird.
I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my friends here. I don't want to say anything about the guy I literally just hit 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
all
okay.
about love.
I'm all about love.
Someone Charlie. That's my new. I'm all about love, Charlie.
That's what happens with
I'm
a
all
lot of
about
these
love.
stars.
I'm all about love. Suck it.
That's like it's Alec Baldwin. When they go to apologize, it's like they're always apologizing for being too good. I'm apologizing for loving too hard. I'm apologizing for caring too much.
I love too much. Isn't that the Homer Simpson? I'm too real and I love too much.
Yep.
Oh my God! For everyone. Oh well. That story though is the exact opposite, which is just Bruce Willis is going to retire because he has a medical condition called aphasia, which essentially impacts your ability to speak. Now,
quick sidebar. Learned about this from an episode of Star Trek, early episode of DS9. Cardassian virus. Everybody on the station got it. That's how I learned what aphasia is. Thank you, Star Trek.
So, and I can speak to this as my father, who passed away, who dealt with many, many neurological disorders. The first thing that left him was his ability to speak.
Right. Mm-hmm. I remember. I
had 8 years. My dad was alive. I couldn't hear him speak. And my dad was a joke teller. He was very much like me. Very effusive, loved to speak, loved to tell jokes and things like that. Losing your voice and be able to speak to people, it's got to be a punishment worse than death, because you are. Harlan Ellison made a book, I Have No Voice and I Need to Scream. I believe that's the title. It's similar to that. I have no voice and I need to scream. That's horrific. That is part of being human, communicating. And if you didn't have that throughout your life because of being, some affliction, to get that in your later years, especially being an actor, that's horrific. But the fact that he can do things now, before that he can bring this condition to the forefront, can do all these things to raise awareness, hopefully generate money for it, is going to be the best thing we could happen from this, because a lot of people didn't have a voice, literally, suffer from this. So the fact that he is going to step away, he is working with the Mayo Clinic, and he's into early retirement because of this, but he's got a strong support group with his ex-wife, his family. And this is wonderful, but Bruce Willis is a part of all of our childhoods. Die Hard, Moonlighting. All those things. You mentioned Bruno when he made the bad album, or the wine cooler commercials.
Blind Date.
Blind.
Absolutely. What is it? What was that one movie he made that was just so weird? It was like a spy thriller.
Hudson Hawk, and it's classic.
If that's what you're thinking. That's one. Oh yeah, I don't know. You
right down
poke
there.
That bear. Yeah. I was gonna poke that bear. Steve would have it in his hand in a second. So watch out now.
It's
absolutely.
Right,
I remember seeing that movie. So weird, like Sandra Bernhardt, and just like weird. Like, was there like an animal involved in it that had to do part of like a heist?
Bunny Ball. No, on the heist they would sing. They were singing, to keep time, and they were singing, "Would you like to swing on a star? Would you rather be a mule? Would you rather be a fish?" And as they were doing all their stuff.
That's right. Yes, but
that movie was. That movie is supposed to be like 4 hours long, the original one, and they cut it down to sub 2 hours, and that's why it's so choppy. That's why literally scenes just like end and go, to somewhere else, and it's
Right.
There's apparently a hidden director's cut out there that we'll never see because not enough people love it.
Greenlit a 4-minute movie.
No, 4 hour.
Oh, sorry, 4 hours.
That's
Sorry.
4-minute movie.
4 minutes.
That is some tight storytelling. I cannot deny that. Oh my god!
But no, just a 4-hour movie. I mean, just think about it. Kind of reminds me of Zack Snyder. Like, is that the inherent? Like, I saw Hudson Hawk. I needed that 4-hour cut for Justice
League. Oh my gosh! All right, well, I'm going to take us up on out of here. Good stuff, guys. But now it's time. Got to get out the phone, open up Uber. We got to get a Scuzzy cab to go down to Scuzzy Town. That's right. It's time for the Geek Easy. Let's do it.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're setting the Geek Easy. Cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So this week, Steve, you're leading off. What do you got for us? What have you been watching and reading?
Oh, gosh, what have I been reading? I've been reading two very diametrically opposed things right now, I think. I'm a fantasy reader. I'm a reader of everything. I'm a Stephen King reader. I think it's a prerequisite, so read everything he's ever done. But I'm actually reading the Witcher series because I've played all the games, absolutely love them over the years, just replayed the third one again. The show, first season was fantastic. Second season is what it is.
Oh, really?
I didn't like it as much. It's different. I prefer the non-linear, more esoteric way to tell stories than this one. But I decided to go back and read the books. So I'm like the third one in, and they're good, but they're heavy. I mean, I've read Lord of the Rings and stuff. They're
Polish.
They're heavy.
It's Polish fantasy, right?
Polish fantasy, right? Yeah. And then I'm reading the Hollywood Propaganda book, which might be a little controversial, but it's just basically about the history of the organizations that get hired since the 20s that basically come in and decide what messaging is going to go into pop culture shows and music and media. So it's some earlier examples to not get controversial because, who knows, it's written by one guy, blah, blah, blah. But, like diamond rings were introduced in the 20s as the way to propose to a partner. Before that, It was rings, but the diamond ring, because the De Beers diamond family lobbied for that to happen, they put those in commercials, and now diamonds are basically everywhere for that. So a lot of it is that. For that. And as soon as we get closer to now, it's just more things about what messaging is happening in movies and stuff today. So it's it's a different world, but it fuses how I watch.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Hollywood Propaganda.
Okay, cool. I love that kind of stuff because there's a reason for things happening. It's like Adam explains it all, or Adam ruins it all, I think is the name of the podcast or show I like to watch, because there's a reason for things. And they just don't happen because it just happened. There are people behind it. And that's just the way big companies work. I work for a big company. They do things, they market, and it's kind of cool. That's really neat. So Hollywood Propaganda, very cool.
Yep. And again, to be non-controversial about it, it is written by one side of a spectrum. So I try to read books from all sides of spectrum. So if anybody's listening, go find it. I don't want them to come back and be, oh, that's a crazy righty guy or something like that. I go back and forth trying to read everything I can to get a good handle on it. But those are it. And like I said, watching movies. I've got a younger girlfriend who was not brought up on movies. So, when we started dating a couple years ago, I made her a list. Said, these are things we need to watch. If you would, I'd love to watch them again with you. Let's watch them in here. And watching her and my daughter watch these movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, things that I loved that they would have never found, has been like the greatest joy of my last couple of years.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I would love to see this.
Oh, me too.
Person someday. Wink, wink.
This list.
Wink, wink, wink.
This list. I think you need to share that.
I was talking about his basement setup because we live in the same town.
Oh.
Wink, wink, wink.
We can make it happen, Charlie. We can make it happen.
All right.
Well, you guys can do that. I just want to see the list.
I want to see the list too.
Steve,
big time.
Well,
if you've got the list and shareable, I would love to see it.
I do. I don't have it on my computer, but I can certainly get it to you afterwards, and maybe you can put it off on something else.
That's
but
cool.
it was obvious and B-sides, right? I certainly have all the things you're supposed to, but then I wanted to sneak in things you would never found. So it's got like The Devil's Advocate and just stuff that aren't like somebody 20 years later is not going to just cross necessarily on a Netflix that I think was great. Road to Perdition. I mean, it's just not. It's a great movie, but not one that's easily found. So
okay, so I'm going to make a proposal, Charlie, right now. It's not indecent, so don't worry about it, Steve. We do a we've done a couple of things the last couple of years. We've done like the remember Charlie, we did last summer, we did because there was no movies, we did the really fun, like just unknown or deep cut movies we did the last summer. We always do a Halloween horror fest of like movies that's horror in each week of October. So Steve, if you would like to come back,
we got to
bring in a pick that we have to watch that you'd like us to watch. We love that. So
horror section's right there. I've got
Okay, that is locked up for October.
We're booking it. We love it. Yes, because we are always looking for like just either new or weird or different or something we might have missed. So definitely, we will book you for that.
All right.
And it's going to be different too. Last on this point, with so much media now with Apple TV, everybody having a movie studio now. I fear where movies are going to go, but it's so diluted you can't keep up, and all this stuff is lost in the wash. So I know I'm going years back, but it's like trying to introduce a couple younger people to this stuff.
Good deal.
Absolutely. So with me, we'll pivot to me, and Steve, if you haven't watched these, we'll try to keep it spoiler free in case you do want to watch it. But if you don't, let us know. The first one is Moon Knight. This debuted on Marvel on Disney Plus this week. And this is going to be one of the odd Marvel properties that people don't know about this character. Reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy, where it was off most people's radar, coming into the forefront. Essentially, in the trope with this series is essentially you've got a man who's experiencing in the comics, as we've learned with Moon Knight, multiple personalities. Mm-hmm. And this is manifesting in a way to tell a story very much like a Memento, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Really fantastic, but essentially a main protagonist who doesn't know truly who he is after the first episode. He is finding out he might have a different life that he doesn't even know that's happening. And this is a really interesting show. It's got, Poe Dameron, as I call him, like twitchy or very nervous Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaacs being the lead. He's essentially a shop worker at a museum in London with Egyptian artifacts. And then his life starts peeling apart. You find that he has some issues already because he basically tethers himself to his bed with a lock. He puts sand around his bed to see if he's gotten out of bed. And then you find out. Exactly. And then you find out he's got a second life because he's got some people telling him his name is not actually Steve, but it's Mark. Which is just interesting as well. So you've got all this happening in one episode, and then all we really learn is Ethan Hawke is this weird like cult leader, who does some really interesting things. So who wants something from Steve?
Right. He's got this. I was going to say he's got this Freddie Mercury thing going, but he's got this Freddy Krueger thing going where he's the Dream Police because there's a good chunk of the episode that happens in these weird different settings. But I won't spoil the ending, but holy cow, I did love it. And we try to keep it spoiler free for at least a week or so, unless we come right out and say it. But yeah, I enjoyed the ending. And again, Todd, this is 6 episodes.
I think so. It's short.
Yeah, which is I like 6 or 7. 6 or 7 is great.
Keep it tight, as they say, right? Keep it tight.
And it could be mercifully short because the Book of Boba Fett was mercifully short because it was all over the damn place. Holy shit!
Yeah, we won't get fan service in this one, Charlie, most likely, which is different
because there's no fans.
Exactly. At this point, it's different. It's a different type of story. I would definitely say if you're curious, check out some of the Marvel comics that are out there to learn more about the character because he's been all over the map. We've talked about some on the show. I think he's interesting. It's definitely not your standard hero type of show, which I find interesting. I watched the first episode with my family. They're not big into like the MCU stuff either, but they ended the first episode very intrigued, which is a good sign. It's like there's more to eat on that versus just fan service, which is really cool. I am nervous because we had a show that Marvel did with Fox, and I think that studio through Hulu, which was Legion, which was definitely a thing dealing with someone with multiple personalities. What is real? What is not? I always worry that becomes like the big thing. It's like, am I investing something that's just going to be a big shenanigans? Didn't happen. Fool you. But we'll see how this goes. But I mean, I'm hoping because with only 6 episodes, they actually can tell a story and don't get derailed too much, but they can layer on really good storytelling and have fun with it. So we'll see how this goes. I liked it though.
For sure. Yeah, same here. I'm interested on the different takes. So, and Ted, yeah, up next, you and I are duplicating all the way across the board here. So what's next?
Yeah, Halo episode 2. So, Steve, I'm not sure if you're into like video games. You play The Witcher, so I would take it you might be, but Halo's not for everybody. It's more of a first-person shooter, light on story, but a lot of lore if you want to read the comics and stories, like books and things like that. This is diverging. It's a different timeline than the actual games, and they are going the path of definitely a TV series because they're taking their time. This episode was low on bullets per minute or whatever you're going to call it, more about storytelling, where they're going to land, where they're going to go, detailing things about the actual lore of the Spartans, which are this like master class of hardcore warriors who are genetically engineered to defend the Earth from the Covenant. We saw more about the Covenant. So this is really building in some of the layers, but definitely not the high points of the action in the first episode. So right. I know this is like highly controversial from the hardcore fan base of Halo. But when I take myself back and say, I play those games and they lack story in the gameplay itself, this is doing more for like one-stop shopping than if you're a fan, you want to just read everything and you have to go out. Like The Witcher. The Witcher is a TV series, it's a book series, it's a game series, and like the TV show is based on the books, not the game, and it's crazy. And this is the same way here with Halo. So I think Halo, for the uninitiated, it's telling a unique story. I'm not sure if I like the lead character because I don't know if he's that charismatic.
Pablo, what's his butt?
Yeah, Porn Stash, whatever his name is.
Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black. Yeah, that's how I know him. Yeah, and again, I talked about it last week for the uninitiated. April and I are watching this because it comes out on Wednesday, same as Picard on Paramount Plus. So we generally watch them back to back because we're early risers and we like to watch shit first thing in the morning. We as the uninitiated, as I said last week, we enjoy it, but this hardcore fan base up in arms. I get that. I'm a hardcore Star Trek fan. There's some things that the JJ movies had me up in arms because reasons that I'm not going to talk about. I get it, but
they weren't great.
That could be it. But it all comes down to I with the video game adaptation. I'm sure. What do you expect? How can you really appeal to things that might work as a first-person shooter? I don't know what the story is involved in, but if he's just running around blowing the heads off of aliens, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that in a television program? You've got to layer. You got to put a little bit more stake with your sizzle of blowing heads off. So
So Charlie, with that, we're 2 episodes in. I mean, are you still in, or do you care?
I care. I care. I'm interested. I want to know, with the weird aliens, why they have, basically the Baltar from old, Battlestar Galactica, the chick who is the collaborator. It's like, what's up with that? I want to know
that's unique. That's unique to the series, totally. And I think they're using some type of, maybe they're using Jim Henson Studios, but they're doing a good job with the aliens. I will say that. And a lot of people come say that I think they look pretty cool for being very weird looking. You don't see a lot of that with like in Star Trek and Star Wars. So I like the fact that they're little.
Yeah, that is unique for television, especially looking at Star Trek going back. And hey, let's put an extra earlobe on this guy, and he's an alien, exactly. So,
Steve, have you watched any of it?
As I said a little bit earlier, I don't watch a lot of television now because I've been kind of disappointed a lot with it, and not because of it's wrecking the fan base thing or anything like that. It's just I'm not interested anymore. It's not. There's 7 stories that are told again and again and again, and there's nothing new. And like even my daughter now is watching. I bet that's going to happen. I bet that's going to happen. I'm like. There's nothing new in any of these things. That doesn't mean they can't be enjoyable, and I do find that. But as far as the games, I'm an avid video gamer. I love Master Chief. I love those games. They're very late on story. But I think Master Chief is a character. Same with the Mandalorian as a character. Their mysteriousness is why they're a character in the games. And as soon as you humanize them more, they become less mysterious. But obviously the double-edged sword is you have to. But I don't want to see Master Chief taking a shower talking about love. That's not what the character is. But I also don't want to see mindless action. Although the few clips I've seen, it looks like they're doing a fantastic job as far as the production design and the sound effects. Everything are straight from the game. I just finished Elden Ring. I'm one of those people on the planet who just got pissed.
Wait. You're too good for me, man. Because my son's almost ready to beat it, and I played it. I'm like, he's my Sherpa because I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
but congratulations on being awesome.
I'm not usually. This is the first game that I actually played that hard, and I play all the time. And it's so different from The Witcher per se. It's an open world, but there's no hand holding. It tells you nothing. You have to.
And there's very little story too.
No,
it's like find the story where you find it.
But when you pick up a piece of armor, it's got a little thing about the piece of armor where it came from, and then you see it on a person later on. It forces you to actually create stories from what you see as you're walking around. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about this, which are fascinating. Not that that's the way everybody wants to play, but it hit me in a completely different way that I thought is a storytelling avenue. Yeah, I want to know why these creepy women are dancing and laughing in this whole village, and why, what's over here. Oh wait, there's a dead one in this village way over here in a fire pit.
Whoops.
What happened there? There's just all this crazy stuff like that. So
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Storytelling,
implied. Yeah, it's a lot of implied. Like you can find more if you want, but it's not going to lay it out. And this is way Halo is doing a little bit different. It's like it's going deep on the humanizing the Spartans, which is we haven't seen before. So it's definitely different. I'm not sure the audience are going for, but if the fact that it's working with an audience that's unfamiliar with the franchise might be good enough, because guess what? You can play the games and you can read the books and the comics, and you can ignore this if you want.
Well, didn't this do this for The Mandalorian, though? Because I only watched the first season of that. If you keep the main character, you add all the lore in everywhere else and keep the main character as the main character, I think that can still work fantastic, too. Not to say, if Master Chief keeps his helmet on and never talks about love and everything else around him and just expand this lore, I think it still can be a great story without compromising what people love about the character. But, Right.
Yeah, it's different. So good to hear you enjoying it, Charlie. And then lastly, Picard. I think I started episode 4, finished 3 of Picard, so I'm not up to 100% speed. But obviously now we're into the and Steve spoilers, whatever you want to say, if you want to mute yourself or whatever.
Spoil away.
But I definitely feel, Charlie, we're in the the quest for the whale era of Star Trek right now. It feels like that.
Not literally, because it's actually set in the future of 2024, which is cool.
But it feels like it's going after that vibe.
Yeah.
I think he meant metaphorically, Charles.
Metaphor.
Wait, are there whales again? Are the whales back?
There's gonna be now. It is. It's very adaptable. No, it's set in the near distant future of 2024, which kind of bumps up against another little Star Trek Easter egg that had to do with DS9, but yada yada yada. But all right, well, Todd, what's your and we're Katie and I are talking about episodes 4 and 5 when we record after this. So what's your take on episodes 2 and 3 then?
I didn't mind it, but once again, we're in that now we're bumping into Rios, who happens to be Spanish now, is dealing with ICE and getting detained there. And then we've got people dealing with some things. So it's a little not great, because I feel like it's slowing. It's slowing down progress for the main story. It's okay. I wish it was more like one episode. Yep, we're done. We're going. I don't know how long this goes. I don't know if you're done with this by episode 5, but to me, it's just, once again, it seems like it's a story trope. It's like, we're going to go back in the past. In Star Trek in the past, they would have done this in one episode. But now we got to do it in 13 episodes. It's
because of the overarching theme of any single season, 10 seasons of or 10 episodes or whatever. So this is 10 episodes. As episode 5, you're right, they haven't resolved it yet, but it does uncover some other wrinkles of what the Watcher is and the stuff that's revealed in that episode that you were.
It's got to be Will Wheaton, right? It's got to be him coming back.
Correct. It's him plus all the other fan theories. What's the other one they said? I don't know. There was something. Don't
Miss Barclay. I don't know. I'm going to come up with some lame stuff.
Don't give me Will Wheaton. I am not a fan.
Who are going to dance in the moonlight again?
Ooh.
I watch my Star Treks.
I know that Star Trek. Anyway, Todd, keep watching. It might get greater.
But do you feel like it's, we've run in season 2 now? Is it still is it getting derailed like it's a sophomore season, or do you feel it's still we had a crazy season? Yeah. Right. Is it a sophomore season?
I don't think it's as crazy. It is moving a little slower, and it's taking on something different, but with the stuff with Q, who is, purported to be the major villain. I think they're taking a different tack. I don't necessarily know where it's going. And I like that. It's not blatantly obvious at this point, kind of what's going to go down. But again, just keep watching. Get caught up. Again, we're on episode 5.
I will. I like it. I like the characters. I like what they do. I just was worried that it was going to be like this. Because I did see the meme right now, Charlie. I guess I'm big into Trek now. Apparently, the punk that was in Star Trek. The quest, whatever it was called.
Kirk Thatcher of the Henson Creature Shop. Actually,
yes, with a mohawk, with the flipping people off his boombox is back on this, and he's an older punk, which is like real time. It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
There is some pretty fun stuff and some little Easter eggs that most people won't care about, but it's fan servicey, but it's not Book of Boba Fett fan servicey.
Sure,
because what could be. So, all right.
Well, did Ahsoka show up in Star Trek?
Oh my God, that's how episode 5 ended. They were about ready to solve the whole thing, and Ahsoka and Grogu showed up. It was amazing.
Perfect.
It was amazing. All right, let me take
Baby Worf showed up.
Oh my God, that's the next one, Baby Worf. All right, I will take us home. We were at the cinema, regrettably, obviously, to see the movie we're going to talk about in the Thunderdome. But the day before, we went and saw The Lost City, which was a modern spin on Romancing the Stone, which is a movie. Right. Oddly enough, that I grew up with because it was one of my mother's favorites.
They made that movie 25 years ago. Yes, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
40 years ago. It was 40 years ago almost. Yeah. My God. But it was Channing Tatum, who I enjoy. He was actually in we saw the dog movie, was what I talked about last week, and he was the star of that movie as well. Well, okay, he was the co-star next to the dog. We all know that. But yeah, he was side by side with Sandy Bullock in this. And I hate to say it, but she has fallen on the wrong side of plastic surgery.
Are we back to this? Can we just leave this around? We're not going to talk about actors like physical appearance anymore. Let's just throw it out the window. It doesn't matter.
I mean, even for April, she was saying it was tough for her to watch. But anyway,
it doesn't matter though. Doesn't matter.
If you say so. But anyway, it was a romp, very dismissible. It was silly, but yeah, it's basically it's Romancing the Stone for more modern era. But instead of Michael Douglas, who is a roundabout ne'er-do-well, you have Channing Tatum, who is the cover model of the junkie romance books. Yeah, he's Fabio of the junkie romance books that's Sandy Bullock writes. And she went through this whole movie without a face. So that's what Todd wants me to say.
How was Daniel Radcliffe in this as the villain?
He was not menacing.
Okay, not menacing. Okay, charming and intense.
He was, yeah. It wasn't a sale. It was a no for me, dog. It was not a sale.
Oh no,
it was not a sale. Yeah, I don't know. But again, the overall tone of the film being somewhat farcical. How scary could he really be? You know what I mean?
Seemed like a Jumanji.
A little bit. Brad Pitt stole the show as this.
What?
Oh yeah,
he's in it.
Yeah. He's in the trailer.
Yeah, he stole the show.
I totally forgot that.
He stole the show as essentially the soldier of fortune, maybe Michael Douglas role that he jumps in and stuff. But his I don't want to. It's a fun movie, but his role is brief. But you know what? It was fun. It was a fun way to spend
light fare.
And Todd, I unlike Morbius and Batman, stayed awake the whole time. It was great.
Inside.
Good to know.
Inside.
Good. No. Oh yes. Just to let you know, and I'm sure we'll have a report from Charlie at this point. Steve, Charlie has this banner of pride for being old that he falls asleep at movies. I'm like, stop getting up at 5 o'clock for no reason. For some reason, you
just basically set yourself up by saying you get up early every day to do the morning stuff. So maybe stop doing that, and you'll respect the movie, Charlie. You got to go through it. If you fall asleep, you're not giving them what they need.
Or go to a 4 o'clock movie from now on, man. Go to the Blue Plate Plus special movie.
I can't. That's when I go to the restaurant at 4 o'clock. I beat the crowd.
Dude, you're the Denny's. You're the senior citizen getting your senior citizen discount at 46 years old.
Oh my God!
No, dude, people should not fall asleep at movies. You're too young for that.
See, this is his shtick. He just always tries to embarrass me in front of the guests.
Steve, no, 46-year-olds do not fall asleep at movies.
It's terrible.
I hate it. It's happened, but I don't. It's no pride. There's no pride. It's happened.
I frequently call it pride anyway, Todd. Where are we going now?
Well, I had one thing to actually say as a movie buff, Charlie, because you keep dropping old movies. Do you recognize my shirt reference?
Buddy
I see Knuckle.
No, you got me. Hit me.
No, so it says Buddy Revell's Brassy Knuckle for those who are watching the video podcast.
I think it's circa 83. There was a movie in 1983 or 4 called 3 O'Clock High with Charlie Samazko about a nerd who bumps into the bully in the morning, and basically the bully says, "I'll see you out on the bike racks at 3 o'clock," and the entire movie is this kid freaking out all day long. I don't know if it wasn't a huge hit or anything like that, but it's the kind of junk that I
remember
buy.
seeing the movie. Yes.
Yep. And here's a postscript to this that you'll understand. When I was in high school, that was me and Rob App. We had a 3 o'clock at the bike rack. That was a pathetic fight.
I was going to say, I don't know how, I know both of you. I don't know how scrappy you both were, but I didn't seem like that'd be one worth going to.
No, I have no idea why that guy and I always butt heads, but we're friends now. So, that's the way that works.
Nice.
Charlie always making friends and enemies on the interwebs. Oh, well, that is it for the Geek Easy. Now it's time for us to go to a distant land to talk about a topic or game to keep those mutants entertained, and that's the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. This week, our topic is Morbius. This is the Sony cinematic of Spider-Man characters, first movie of 2022. I believe Steve and Charlie saw it before I did. I saw it on Saturday at noon. This movie is doing its own thing, as Venom did as well. It's not actually done by Marvel proper in the MCU. So there we'll go. This movie has already made like $41 million. We've got interesting cast, and this movie happened. So I just want to say I am not bought and sold by the Morbius Movie Corporation. I got this cup because I attended the movie and got a beverage, and that's what happened. So I don't want anybody to take away that I'm like a biased like cup. You
notice he keeps picking it up. You never would have known. So yes, by the fine folks at Sony, go.
It's that caveat then, like that media companies have to do when they do their news. Like, oh, by the way, we're owned by whatever. I'm not owned by the corporation that made this movie. So before we get into this, really quick, this essentially is the. I don't know how many Sony movies we've had that feature Spider-Man, but this is the third movie that does not feature.
That does not. Yes, exactly.
Yes. This is the third movie that Sony has made that does not feature Spider-Man, that is focused on I guess call them Venom. Like Venom was a anti-hero. Morbius is kind of an anti-hero. There we go. We know more movies are coming from the Sony banner. They're going to focus on the characters Madam Webb and Kraven the Hunter, as far as we know is happening, and we're going to get another Spider-Verse. So that is your precursor to this movie. This movie ran about 90 minutes long. Jared Leto's in this, Matt Smith's in this, and then beyond that, doesn't really matter. So really quickly,
right.
So this movie is getting ravaged. So I just want to put a precursor. This movie is getting ravaged by everyone. And I just want to say, I think a lot of people are ravaging this movie even before they saw it. So I think there's like this weird negative like piling on that ultimately becomes like self-fulfilling. So I said I could kept my expectations low. I said I was going to be whelmed, hopefully, at best, and not underwhelmed. But I think, Charlie, you had like a negative thought process going in.
It's funny because it's something that you and I spar about critics, and I'm like, I don't care about critics, and you're like, well, look at this Metacritic score and look at this RT score, and then I just see seeing headlines starting over a week ago, and memes like they show the classic joining of the arms of Arnie and Carl Weathers and Predator doing the "you son of a bitch" and their arm wrestling or whatever, and it was like worst DC film, worst Marvel film. And the biceps were Jared Leto. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, everybody was really. You're right. There's no doubt that I was influenced by this, but even by
there's blood in the water for this film even before it came out a year ago.
And even seeing the trailer, having it, I guess the thing that making it so self-referential to itself, where he calls himself Venom, is like, and then they even have in the trailer, we haven't seen anything like this since the thing that happened in San Francisco, referential to Venom. It's like, and then the stingers, which we'll talk about, which just I think I said to April, I turned to give me a fucking break with this shit. Oh my god, You're right. But, I mean, obviously the stinger was something that we'll talk about in a moment and was not in the trailer. But, yeah, it just, you're right. They're just, that in itself very much reminded me of the second Andy Garfield film of the Spider-Man with the let's try super duper hard to get the Sinister Six together. You're right. Right from the get-go, from the trailer, before we talk about the film, I was feeling that sense of about it because of that. Yes, you got me there.
Yeah, so I just want to put that out there because I feel like it gets to this negative, like, oh, it's the worst movie ever. I haven't even seen it, but I hate it already. And that's what I really, the internet is getting this like negative vibe. And I hate to say it, a lot of people contributed to it. So I tried to be like, I'm not expecting it to be a good movie, but I'll at least try to say, let's see what this movie is all about. So I think let's go from there. So the movie, I'll just give my impressions really quickly. I thought actually the first 45 minutes were pretty decent. They told a story. The character was pretty good. The acting was pretty good. I didn't see anything that was outrageous in regards to the bad acting or bad filmmaking, things like that. I thought it was pretty low key. When we actually got into you got the motivations are pretty well set. Some of the background information about the characters, where they're going, and then the motivation of where they're going to go in the future. I will say it got, really cheesy when we got into the CGI fighting and things like that. But let me put it this way. I've seen far worse movies than this one. This is not the worst movie in the thing. I already said this. If this had been a movie prior to Batman Begins, this would have been one of the best superhero films we've seen.
Right up there with Catwoman and Daredevil 03.
Oh, no. Catwoman, fantastic for those movies. Those movies, bad script, bad directing, bad performances. That's what I'm saying. This movie was, I would say, a competent film. Not uncompetent, didn't fail. You didn't see the boom mic coming down. But I think...
so that's a little extreme.
But still, I mean, compare it to, Venom. Venom was horrible. But even I found fun in that. I think Venom, the acting was bad. I think the direction was bad. The plot was horrible. The pacing was bad. It was this is the thing. Michelle Williams was kind of we're going to throw her in there. I'm that's what I'm saying. I'm having context for this because I'm trying to compare it to other things that have happened. Even Eternals, which I think was a beautiful film, that way that was scripted was not scripted well. It wasn't constructed well. So I'm just trying to think context. This wasn't the worst movie in the film. I've seen worse movies by far. I saw Wing Commander. Okay. Wing Commander was a pile of crap. I saw Phantom Menace. Look at it this way. People regard Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace is horribly directed, horribly scripted, horribly acted. And it's far better than that on every level, except for maybe the creative lens of CGI, what he created. But come on.
I would say
it's okay.
For though being part of a franchise that they're trying to build, even being not the worst movie you've seen, they should have done better. I thought with this particular.
I'm not saying it's a good film. I'm just thinking it's not. I think people are trying to make this out as the worst film. So I think people need context to this versus saying compared to other films from genre, and it's a competent film.
Well, that's what
they say, that franchise,
and that's not a high bar. That's not
that franchise. Yeah, that franchise forcing, to my regard, is one of the things that I felt going in. But then, boy, right at the end, it was a real kick in the stomach. It's just oh, ouch. But anyway, Steve, you were talking, and we're going to let Steve talk. Steve's got it.
As I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan so much anymore of a lot of the current Marvel movies. I just think they've been played out so much. Of course, they're fun. There's been some awesome things. The sum of the whole, some of the parts is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and the end game thing. They're just getting played out now. And I think there's a bonus that you get to see these characters that nobody knows about, myself included. I mean, I'm not a huge comic book guy. I knew of the names, but this is not something I would, know. I only saw it because you said the only way I could talk to you guys was to go see it. So
it's a hook. It's a hook.
My expectations were low to begin with.
Our price to our love.
Right.
My expectations were low, but to Todd's point, I respect film, and somebody worked on it, somebody loved it, so I always give it a chance. Sleeping is the worst thing you can do, and hating somebody you've never seen, and of course the internet just review bombs everything's up and down today based on politics, not whether they've seen it or not, or if somebody slept with somebody in the cast, and that's a scandal now, so they review bomb it, and blah, blah, blah. I actually read reviews on it today that gave it 10s and saying it was the finest film they've ever seen, and that's reverse review bombing. It's bots and stuff that are giving it to the other just to throw the numbers off. I know, right?
Review bots. Review bots attack. There you go, Todd. There's your title.
I was interestingly taking notes through this whole thing, and I felt like I could do a CinemaSins just like that. But I know that you can do that with most movies with this. But I just thought, and I guess it gets what you said, Todd. I thought there was so much filmmaking issues, so many filmmaking issues, because that's my critical eye. And again, I'm not no super expert or anything, and there's a lot of junk movies I like. I was just put off right from the bat. And I mean, from like the color psychology, the opening credits, like these pink and purple triangles flying at your head. I'm like, that doesn't really get me in the mood for like a hard-hitting action movie, So I try to look at all that stuff. And boy, that first scene, how spoiler do we get in here? I mean, I'm not going to say
well, let's put it this way. Let's to the audience. We have like 6 more minutes. So that's our wall, right?
We're good. We'll turn your 6 minutes into like 12 minutes. Go for it.
Okay.
One of the first things I noticed that right when the two friends meet each other, right? And they sit down and they put the one kid in bed and he's talking to Moby, who some reason takes on his name just by, okay, you call me Milo, I'll do that for the rest of my life. But he sits down and mid-sentence, like the kid is sitting up in his jacket, his like little suit jacket, and says like, how long have you been here? And it cuts to Morbius, and he starts to answer the question, and then it cuts back to Milo, who is now in bed with an IV in his arm, in his pajamas, in one sentence, and I was like, "Who the hell edited that? That's crazy." And then I think they went into like a montage scene, which you see all the time because they started to cut in all these things. You don't do it over one sentence though, like just like that. And there were just so many production design things and so much. A quote I heard a couple months ago that I really like, and it really influences my thoughts now is movies today are created and designed by people who are influenced by other movies, not by life experience. Because all these kids are growing up on their phones and they're growing up in in their basements and they're not on YouTube, and they don't put heart and soul. So these movies, and for 5 years now, they put a cool scene in, but there's no build up to why that scene actually matters. There's no rhyme or reason why something, they just don't understand what makes a scene click or not. And there's a specific scene where a character, again, I'm going to spoil. Can I spoil? I'm going to do it.
Sure. Okay. Spoilers, everyone. Tune back in once you've seen this show. Yeah.
Example, it happens all the time. But these movies now, I love, because I don't love it. The bad guy just goes bad psychologically because he's bad, right? And you have a blood disease in your bed, and when the Matt Smith character goes after his mentor, I was like, my God, really? Is that something you would do for a lifelong friend? I know you're mad, but for a lifelong friend, trying to help you. Oh, bad guy kill, or try to kill him, whatever. That's the kind of junk that happens in these movies these days. I can't abide. It doesn't make sense. It's not psychologically crafted interestingly, and I just got bad vibes all the way through. Go ahead, Charlie. I could go on 1,000 other things.
And again, I think Matt Smith was, and again, I know he was Doctor Who. I don't know where he ranks in the pantheon of Doctor Who because I'm so willy-nilly with that, but I thought he was the most, there wasn't anything about his performance that made sense.
Oh, really? I thought he actually added some life to it. I thought he embraced it being kind of wacky and crazy. I'm like, think about this, a person who has cancer and they finally say you're cancer-free. They have a different perspective on life than the rest of us.
That he wants to just blatantly go out and kill people.
Because he's like, I don't care. I'm embracing these because I've been shit upon the rest of my life. I'm going to have a good time.
And I don't even remember how it was established that they're poor Cockney bootblacks in the orphanage or whatever. That's what it seemed like, because he was like, "Give me back my letter," and the kids are beating him up. And then he's impossibly rich. That was just, there wasn't anything really about it. And Todd, I could tell I poked a button here because you liked his performance, but I just thought he was just with his dancing, and April and I were like,
I thought he was just having fun with the role, which all I want as an actor to enjoy it versus I got paid and I'm showing up. He had a good time with it, and he actually brought some life to it in a very dour film where there was little life in it, to be honest. That's what I was saying. It's a juxtaposition of okay, everybody could play I'm edgy. He's like, I'm just having a good time and having fun. He's like, that's what he was doing. He was trying to say, we've been living the living dead, and now we can live. And I don't care who I kill because I just want to not be in pain and have a good time.
Yeah,
That's the perspective I brought to it.
That's quite a message.
I can appreciate that, but again, it's just the instant bad. Here's something I don't understand either, right? So I get the Marvel movies that have magic in them, right? And so Doctor Strange and the elements and all that kind of stuff. This was a blood disease cured by a natural medical procedure that he somehow took a bunch of money laundering equipment and made into blood.
That was spectacular.
Yes. Highest effect.
And so in these Marvel movies, there's never a middle ground for the cure of disease. His lanky, thin, hollowed-out body goes ripped or ultra vamp, and so it's like disease. The halfway point is being ultra ripped, from vampire. But I really didn't understand the visual effects production of that. Like I got the Sonic thing was cool, but every time they're flying around and there's smoking behind them and everything, I didn't get it either. But it wasn't a POV shot, so why as an audience are we seeing them smoke through the?
Right.
Yeah. It was an odd take, almost like in the vampire meme of like smoke and mirrors and this, that type of thing. It was like it was not clearly defined. And I think that's what we all say when you get a world, you have to have what is the rules of the world? They weren't clearly defined. So that was a miss. I think the other thing that I thought was a miss when it's like ultimately what's the end game for him? Like, yes, I can't live, so kill yourself. I mean, that was the thing. I'm like, why are you still living and why are you still a threat to people? And then you suck the blood out of your loved one. Sorry, spoiler still. But then she comes back. I'm like,
because is it because she licked her lips with the blood?
Well, blood, I think, dropped into her mouth. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so that make it because Morbius, again, a Spider-Man character, is a pseudo-vampire, which means he doesn't, he's not affected by the daylight and all this different shit. And so his rule set is a little different. I don't remember his rule set having anything to do with, and of course, vampires can convert somebody by sucking their blood or whatever it is. And that wasn't really something that figures in his rule set, except here it was.
Yeah. Well, it's part of his blood, maybe. I don't know.
Because of love?
Yeah.
They're instant
it's
love.
It's the fifth element, Charlie. It's the fifth element.
No, I thought that was pizza. Okay.
Yeah, it was. They're only in the third act that they all of a sudden fall in love, like on the rooftop. Right. Up until then, they were just hanging out, and then all of a sudden, they're interested in each other like that.
Nothing sexier than quadriplegic getting healed. I don't know. Right, exactly. Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think there was a lot of plot holes. Totally get it, and that's where I think the end of the movie is where this fell apart completely for me. And I'm like, I get it. It didn't make any sense. So I'm not trying to defend this movie. I'm just saying the first part of this movie I thought was pretty decent. But when they tried to layer on all these extra parts, it kind of fell apart. So I think this is where it lends. And I think at this point, I think it's good to get into then the I guess you call them mid and the beginning and mid.
Yeah.
Stingers
versus
just the end credits.
Straight up. They were really just like extra scenes. Because you're right, it was not I'm going to sit at the end. So yeah, this was a clear play on the MCU. You simply see the New York skyline at night. You see a crackle in the distance, which if you watched Loki or if you watched obviously Spider-Man No Way Home, is a fracture in the multiverse. Well, in an empty jail cell, Michael Bolton. Oh my God, Michael Keaton. It would have been great.
I love all of his catalog.
I know. I celebrate his entire catalog.
Adrian Toomes.
Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes appears, because he appears mysteriously. He gets released. They go back to the credits. They show some time has passed. Michael Morbius is driving a sports car at night out in the middle of the desert. When he gets out of his car, Adrian Toomes shows up in the Vulture outfit in the middle of the night, which makes absolutely no sense in any way, shape, or form. That he has meticulously recreated this tech, which was destroyed back in Spider-Man Homecoming, but he has the same jacket and the wings and everything's good, and he does the super forced franchise building. I think guys like you and me should totally stick together or whatever. And Morbius was so bad. I'm listening, and I was like, fuck you. That was the worst.
That was the worst.
That killed it all for me. If I thought it was bad but redeemable, this was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, like I said, it was the end of the movie where it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna take anything we did that might have been positive and just put it in the toilet.
Well, because it completely, if he entertains that, goes against his hero's journey. His whole time he's trying to be good, and he decides to become part of the Sinister Six or whatever. You just dumb bad for no reason.
Well,
Much like Adrian Toomes, though. Adrian Toomes was just trying to defend for his family in those movies, and now he wants to head up a big bad franchise all of a sudden.
Right, exactly.
And that's where I couldn't tell if he was like, "Are we going to be good guys or bad guys?"
Yeah,
it was a little weird,
stick together.
So I just
What does that mean?
yeah,
does that mean?
it was
What
just
does stick
so
together mean?
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. But my only positive for these stingers was at least I didn't have to wait till the whole damn credits. It was quick. And I'm like, wait, it's already happening? It's already happening. Yeah, I'm good.
Everybody has to. If you drank that whole Morbius cup, you had to take a whiz at that point. You know it's true.
I only took a couple pee breaks. I had to take a couple. Yeah, I should do like a rating on how many pee breaks I have to take. But
There
yes,
you
this
go.
one was light on it.
That's
but
the real
once again, it was like it's over already. These aren't even mid quills. These are like mid credit scenes, not end credits. So definitely all in the mid credits.
Okay, and can I just walk back? Just one other thing that I found interesting about it. The script was written by I think people inspired by better movies, juvenile, and this was an obvious example again of not plot holes, not fulfilling scenes, not earning deaths, not earning anything because you don't care about these characters. But the trope that I love now is the cops doing interrogation scenes who come in with the vaguest one question, they don't get it answered, and then they go, "We'll see you around," and they leave. And it comes in like they come in and go, "That was great. We found this on this boat. We also found 8 bodies that were drinking their blood." I'm like, why would the cop tell this random nurse, like, we found 8 bodies drained of blood? Like, that's a detail that might not be the first thing you offer. Well, I can't help you. All right, we'll see you around. You know, like, jeez.
We're going to get a spin-off with those two cops, and by all means, Tyrese Gibson as a cop.
Right.
That was that's not going to be a good movie to begin with. And then we got the guy with the mustache.
It was Al Madrigal from The Daily Show.
Okay, there we go. So maybe we're going to get a spin-off with those two guys who they just investigate murders in the Sony Cinematic Universe of characters. Where
God, you cannot forego the Browning that is called the Spumco. Remember?
Spumco, yes. The Spider-Man universe of cinematic movie making.
Oh, there you go, Spumco. Oh my God!
No,
all right,
well.
all right. I'll be the rapper. Yeah.
Yes. Let's get ratings there, Charlie.
Yes. Let's wrap it up. So, Steve,
give it
0 to 10 drops of blood.
I give it the finger. It's from another old movie. Hollywood Shuffle, old stuff. I would have to say that I thought Jared Leto actually did all right. He was very reserved. Matt Smith did bring some fun to it. I hate mumble comedy now, so the funny cops kind of burbling their way through their lines, didn't care for. I give it probably a 4. Could have been old time Spawn days, old original stuff. Higher maybe, but
a clown costume showing up. Yeah.
7.5. Oh my gosh. I will echo that simply because I agree with you. There were elements that were passable to the point I don't think I'm going to love it as much as Todd does. Matt Smith really kind of bugged me because he's like, yeah, you're right, the zero motivation. It's like, I'm always a great guy and I love my friends or whatever, and now I'm a killer. But whatever.
There are 2 character traits I found funny because they showed it so many times or mentioned it. Casio watch for Morbius because he's quirky, and so sweaters for Matt who wears cardigans and stuff. Like, that's his deepest character traits.
Even better than that, shirt and tie, the same pattern.
Oh, when he went bad, when he went bad,
there you go. That was the lack of character development absolutely reminded me of Andy Garfield's Spider-Man 2, which also had the Force franchise. So I tend to think of those films under the same lens. Yeah. I think I'll also swing this one with like a 5. This is one of the lower rated films that I've seen. It was fine. I found it redeemable, but largely so it's like a 50% for me, I'd say.
Okay, I'm gonna so Charlie, because I have to compare this to Venom's because this is the last movie they did. So I think this is better than Venom, both Venoms by far.
Okay.
I
can't disagree.
Venom, Tom Hardy and his I'm gonna make up an accent instead. In the last Venom. Holy shit, that was a horrible movie.
I skipped that one.
Better than those.
Woody Harrelson is what really torpedoed that film.
Oh yes. My God. So that's why I'm saying context, Charlie. Context. This is better than both Venom films and above there. So I think you gave like Venom a 6, so this has to be like a 6.5 for you. So I think you just context. So me, first half is like a solid like 7 to 7.5. The last half is a good 3.5. So that's where I'm trying to come up with my rating. So I'm going to give it a 6 to 5.5.
Take a 7 and a 3 into vitamin 2.
It gives me like a 5.75.
Oh, there you go. So you still snagged the top rating. That is impressive. Oh my God.
Even though it was not a good film, but not the worst film ever. So context.
Not the worst film ever. All right. That's going to be it, folks. So we're going to take us up on out of here. Steve, we always ask our guests, where do people find you out in the world of the social medias or whatever?
Oh, certainly appreciate it, Charlie. Well, again, I work for my company called Shutterworks Media. That's works with an E. You can find that online. We do video production, animation, big, small. Don't really do weddings, but everything else out there as far as commercial work. I also didn't mention before, Charlie, but I do have a podcast of my own with another old friend called Absolute BS with Brad and Steve, where we interview a lot of local, we call them celebrities in Grand Rapids. I try to do it in a different way and instead insult ourselves and demean our guests in a lighthearted and fun way to rip the wall down of transparency, get people to laugh, and then give us a real answer about their lives. So that's called Absolute BS with Brad and Steve, Spotify, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Love to have you guys on that show as well. And I'm just thank you for. But we make fun of you though. So the nerd thing, I'm a nerd. Well, I make fun of that.
I was going to say, you heard how Oxford tears into me. Oh my God!
Yeah, that was good.
No one has ever said I've been short or bald.
Yeah, that was
surprisingly good. Throughout all my life, they've never said those things.
That's okay. Nobody can tell that you're short because you're sitting down. Anyway, you can find me, of course, over on Twitter at the C3. Spell it out. The wife and I, of course, run the USS Grand Petoskey. That is the Michigan chapter of the Star Trek International Fan Club. You can find us on all the socials at that name. And of course, I try to do my best to populate our Secret Friends Unite Facebook group with content when I can. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm bad. I don't know. Todd, back to you.
Yes, you can follow me on @Tioxtra on Twitter, where I talk to people, try to have fun, and try to add some sanity into the dialogue that is happening on the interwebs. If you want to game with me, @Spardion98, @Spardion1998, on all platforms around the globe. Have fun. I just like to game and have fun. So there you go.
I like to have fun, but not like Matt Smith in Morbius. Ouch. Okay, with that. Whoa, ouch. I will simply say, with that, friends, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
I have no good advice for anybody.
Oh, Steve, I cut you off. Do that now.
I have no good advice for anybody.
Perfect. I want to bite your neck. Ah! Blah, blah, blah.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.